Hey, what's going on there, guys? I'm back here today with another deck tech for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at a budget deck, and it's mono green. So with this deck and the budget deck tech series in general, it's going to be a nice way for players to be able to experience new decks and have fun with Magic for exactly what it's worth. And you're not going to be spending this huge, ridiculous amount of money on a deck. Because one of the things that sucks about Magic is whenever you get into competitive formats and you don't really have all the money to buy like all the cards for every single deck, and you invest on one deck, you may find that after you invest your money and like weeks later that you don't really like that deck anymore. You want to go and you want to play something else, and you're kind of at the crossroads with, all right, well, I either have to pay more money to build this deck or not play the deck. So the budget decks are always nice because you get to play something, you can build this deck, and you aren't going to spend a ridiculous amount of money on it, basically. So with mono green, it's just basic aggro for the theme, and all the cards that we have are just going to be green. We're going to play dudes, we're going to make them bigger, and we're going to turn them sideways and just bash our opponent. So before we get started here, if you guys have any suggestions for decks that you would like to see, please leave them down in the comments below, and I'll take them into consideration for future deck techs. And also be sure to check out the playlist in the description below, where I have all the previous decks that I've covered on the channel, including the other budget deck techs. And I also have a playlist to some gameplay with some gameplay that I've covered of a few of the decks that I've covered on the channel. So you guys can check that out if you have some time to kill. Alright, so the first thing that you guys will notice is that it's a different format of taking a look at the deck text. Before I had it where I had all the cards laid out and I had graphics popping up whenever I would talk about cards. So let me know if you guys prefer that over me just going through all the cards in the deck and just taking a look at them by hand. I'm never sure of what people prefer one over the other, so if you guys will let me know in the comments down below after you get done watching this video of which you prefer, this style of deck teching or the old style, it'll let me know for future reference what you guys like to watch. So the first card that we have here is Dryad Militant. So we have 4 of them, and it's a 2/1 for 1 hybrid Selesnya. If a instant or sorcery would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So Dryad Militant's just basically a 2/1 for 1 for us. The effect may or may not be relevant if we're playing up against like Control and our opponent's playing flashback spells that they can flashback, or anything that could be flashback with Snapcaster Mage, then it might be relevant to have the exile of instants or sorceries, but otherwise it's just a basic 2/1. We have Experiment 1, which is a 1/1 for 1 green with Evolve. So whenever we start playing bigger creatures, if we play a 2/2 creature, then Experiment 1's going to evolve and get a +1/+1 counter, and then he's going to further evolve with us playing even bigger creatures. So each time we want to be playing a bigger creature, so Experiment 1 evolves, but we can remove 2 +1/+1s from him, and we can regenerate him if it comes down to playing up against Control and they use like removal on our Experiment 1. We can regenerate him as opposed to having him just die. We have a playset of Strangleroot Geist, so 2/1 for double green, haste and undying. So he's going to be swinging in the turn that we play him, and if he dies, he comes back with a +1/+1 counter. So the next time around, he's going to be a 3/2 creature, and he's going to come back as long as he doesn't have a +1/+1 on him. So you get 1 use out of him, then he comes back as a bigger creature, and then if he dies from that point on, he's gone. We have a playset of Kalonian Tusker, which is new from M14. He's a 3/3 for just 2 green, so it is a pretty plain vanilla creature, but he's a 3/3 creature on turn 2 nonetheless. We have Wolfir Avenger as a playset as well. So this guy is a 3/3 for 3 with Flash, so we can play him at any time that we could cast a instant spell. And for 2 mana, 1 generic and 1 green, we can regenerate him, making him pretty nice and pretty hard for our opponents to get rid of him. We have a playset of Predator Ooze. So Predator Ooze is a 1/1 for triple green, and he's indestructible, making him nice to be able to either block or just to swing in constantly and get bigger. But whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on him, and whenever a creature dealt damage by him dies, this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on him as well. So he has 2 ways of getting bigger. if our opponent chump blocks him or if he's just attacking. We have a playset of Champion of Lambholt, so 1/1 for 3, and it's a pretty small creature whenever it comes out, but creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt can't block creatures we control, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we get a +1/+1 counter on the champion. So she gets bigger, and we can also find a way for our opponent not to be able to block our things, or at least some of their creatures. We have 3 Rubblebelt Raiders, which it's a 3/3 for 4. And whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each attacking creature we control. So it's going to progressively get a whole lot bigger just based on how many creatures we have attacking. We have 2 Deadbridge Goliath. So Deadbridge Goliath is a 5/5 for 4, making it pretty effective for the mana that we're investing in it. And it has Scavenge for 6, so if it gets put into our graveyard, we can exile it from our grave and put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on the creature that we control, or on the creature that we choose. So ultimately, if it dies off, if we have 6 mana open to be able to scavenge, we can just make one of our guys bigger. And then we have Yeva, Nature's Herald, so 4/4 for 4 flash, and we can cast green creature cards as though they had flash, so we can flash in creatures at the end of our opponent's turn, or whenever they declare attackers or anything like that, making it pretty nice up against things like Control, where we can flash in Yeva, and then if our opponent tries to use like some removal spell or something like on one of our creatures, or if they try to get rid of Yeva and tap out into getting rid of her, then we can flash in another creature before that spell resolves or something like that. But either way, just being able to flash in creatures is pretty nice. Yeva in general is just nice because she has flash. Then for our non-creature spells, we have 4 Rancor. So enchants a creature and it gives it +2/+0 and trample, and if Rancor is put into our graveyard from the battlefield, we get to put it back into our hand. And then we have Enlarge. So Enlarge is just a 2 of here, and it's a sorcery for 5, and the creature is going to get +5, or not +5, +7/+7, and is going to gain trample, and it has to be blocked this turn if able. So being able to turn one creature into having 7 more power and toughness and trample, and it has to be blocked, is just really nice for this type of a deck. And then because it's mono green, all we're running are forests. So we have 19 basic forests in our land-based department here. So that's the main deck. Now for our sideboard, which we're going to be using for games where we can side in between like game 1 and game 2 after game 1's done. We have 2 Mending Touch, so regenerate target creature. It's perfect for decks that run like a lot of removal, especially like board wipes. If we want to save one of our creatures, we can use Mending Touch and regenerate our creature and have it survive any wraths or removal. I have 2 Triumph of Ferocity, so it's an enchantment for 3, and at the beginning of our upkeep, draw a card if we control the creature with the greatest power or tied for the greatest power. So if we're playing up against like Control or any decks that don't run a lot of creatures, we can take advantage of Triumph, and we can just start drawing extra cards at the beginning of our upkeep off of it. We have Ground Seal as a 2 of, so whenever it enters in, we draw a card, and cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities, and we play it for 2. Ground Seal is convenient to have up against any decks that are running synergies and being able to, they're able to target things in their graveyard, like Unburial Rites or anything like that, so Ground Seal is going to thwart any graveyard plans. I have 2 Savage Summonings, so this is going to be for decks that have a lot of counter magic in them. Savage Summoning can't be countered, and it's 1 green, and the next creature card that we can cast, that we cast this turn, can be cast as though we had flash, so we can cast it in at any time, and it enters in with a additional +1/+1 counter on it, so we at least get a somewhat bigger creature for investing 1 more mana into it. But playing against counter magic, it's going to be flashed in, and it's going to be uncounterable as well, which is nice. We have Ranger's Guile, so this is a 3 of for us, and it's instant speed, 1 green, and the target creature that we control is going to get +1/+1 and gain hexproof until the end of the turn. So it's nice to be able to side this in up against decks that run like a lot of targeted removal, things like Doomblade, Searing Spears, stuff like that. We can side in Guile and be able to just give our creature hexproof and not allow our opponent to be able to get rid of it. It's also going to get a little bit bigger, so if we're playing on our turn and we're attacking and they respond with like Doomblade or something like that, we can just go and respond with Guile and give a hexproof and also give it a little bit of a buff as well, which could put us at an advantage. We have Bramblecrush as a 2-of, so destroy target non-creature permanent for 4. So Bramblecrush is going to be nice for decks that are going to be running a variety of different things, mainly Planeswalkers. If they're running a lot of different Planeswalkers and they're trying to overwhelm us with them, we can side in Bramblecrush and be able to destroy our opponent's Planeswalkers. Likewise, we can also get rid of enchantments and artifacts, anything that's big and that will give our opponent a huge edge over us. And then the last card that we have is Fog. So 1 green, instant, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So with Fog, it's just going to be played up against like really heavy aggro decks that are going to try and outrace us with what they're doing. So that is our deck tech for mono green. I tried to keep it pretty quick and not take too much time with the cards and with the deck tech in general. So let me know if you guys prefer this type of a deck tech over having everything laid out and me going over the cards with graphics or anything like that. Just let me know down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. The entire deck list is down below where you guys can use it as a reference and check out the cards and the entire card list. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, check out the playlist in the description with all the previous decks that I've covered on the channel, including the budget decks. And until next time, guys, have yourselves a wonderful, fun-filled Magic the Gathering day.